100 and 100.9 FM is KWWN Las Vegas, K265EZ.
Las Vegas Sportsline is owned and produced by Vegas Sportsline, LLC. All opinions expressed by the hosts or guests are their own and are not endorsed by either radio station management or any of its advertisers.
It's time for the Las Vegas Sportsline. Brought to you by Caesars Entertainment, where every guest is treated like Caesar and every visit is unforgettable.
And here we go. It's the Wednesday edition of the Las Vegas Sportsline. It is brought to you by Caesars Entertainment. Wait till you find out. In a little bit, we'll talk with Jeff Davis about just how much they've already put up as far as the NFL is concerned. I mean, it's like the season's already underway. Teddy Covers is here. Ted Savransky. I'm Dave Koken. JD, Jeff Davis, who's the director of trading at Caesars Entertainment, will be joining us next. I'll just get you a quick catch-up in baseball. Games that are completed. The Royals upset the Rays 3-2 in Game 1 of a doubleheader, and lo and behold, the Royals have put a 3-spot up against Blake Snell in the first inning of the second game. Could there be a sweep in store there? In progress, the Pirates leading the Rangers 7-5 in the top of the ninth inning. Another bad game for Shelby Miller. What else is new? The Red Sox beat the A's 7-3, and everything else. Actually, we have one other game underway. Two other games. Diamondbacks 3-0 over the Yankees in the fifth. Ketel Marte is having a good game, and the White Sox with a 1-0 lead over the Orioles. That is early on. All right, let's get to it. We've got a ton of stuff to cover, and we'll bring Jeff in right away. I guess we'll start with the playoff recaps because we had some real point spread excitement in one of the games last night, to put it mildly.
And the total excitement, too.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Side and total coming right down to it.
Well, let's begin with the Warriors. Jeff, they win again, and they sneak out the cover. Now, if you happen to get a good number on Houston, maybe you got to push. But by and large, it opened 5, closed 5, I think. Was this a good result for the house?
This game was as close to break even as possible because we actually needed Golden State, so that was a good result, but the total was not good at all, ended up being a total wash.
Are they a better team without Cousins? I know from a personnel standpoint they're not supposed to be, but it kind of looks like they might just function better without Cousins on the court. I kind of think he's a shell of what he was. He's just not able to stay healthy, and you know, to me, he's not really wasn't all that integrated into this lineup anyway.
Yeah, from the guys I talked to, it seems like, you know, Golden State has such an offensive, up-tempo type game, and he's more of a slow-down, half-court kind of player. And I don't know how much he fits, really. And, frankly, no Cousins is no big deal, or maybe, you know, they could be better.
So you talked about the total last night that snuck over in that final sequence where the Rockets turned a 9-point Warriors deficit into a 4-point Warriors deficit, and then 2 late Durant free throws sealed the deal for Golden State, got them the 6-point win and sent the game firmly over the total. When it comes to a playoff game like this one, how much differential do you have between side and total? Do you have twice as much bet on the side, 3 times, 5 times? You said in this game that it turned out that the fact that you won on the side and lost on the total made the whole game a wash. That means that you have nearly 50-50 action between side and total?
No, it's always heavier on the side. For example, I know we'll talk about it later, but because I have the figures in front of me, right now there is 8 times as much money on the side than the total on tonight's Blazers-Nuggets game, for example.
Right, so that's a fairly typical ratio. So the over was a particularly bad result for you last night then?
Correct, yeah. From a whole percentage-wise, just on the total, yes. The over was no good.
Well, the other game looked close early. Boston came out of the gate okay against Milwaukee, and then the Bucks just took over the game and ended up with the easy win and cover. How'd that one work out from a betting standpoint?
This was a very good result from the house. All the money was on the Celtics. A very public game last night. In addition, we took an absolute ton of money on the Celtics to win the series before Game 1, so we really couldn't ask for much more than what we saw in the second half last night.
So let's look ahead and update the series prices on these two. I would assume the Warriors are pretty commanding favorites, but I'm real curious to find out what the Milwaukee-Boston series looks like with the series 1-1.
You're right, Dave. Most of the marketplace has Golden State minus $7 to win the series. we're actually hanging minus $8, even though there's a lot of Houston straight bet action. Seemingly every parlay that gets written has Golden State series on it, so a little bit more expensive to play Golden State at Caesars. As far as the Bucks go, we are welcoming anyone who's interested in playing Bucks to win the series. Minus $1.85 at Caesars. Quick look at the screen tells me we have the best number available. So all you Bucks series bettors, several places you can go to get down.
Yeah, looking to balance those books a little bit on that one. The other two series both priced very competitively, Philly and Toronto, Portland and Denver. Do you have any take on who you think is most likely to pull off the upset here in the second round of any of the four teams still standing?
The way it's been bet, probably Portland. The public likes Philly, but the sharper clientele doesn't seem to. The money's been closer to even on Portland and Denver, and since my personal focus lies more on the NHL than the NBA, I kind of rely on the sharp guys to tell me what's going to happen. If one of them's pulling the upset, I'd probably lean Portland.
All right, and that plays into tonight's game because I think you probably see a lot of Portland action here based on the fact they lost game one, but also based on a perception that I don't think has been altered yet, that a lot of the more respected opinions think Portland's the better team.
Yeah, we actually took some sharp Denver money, minus 3.5 last night. The number is a bit low, but once we got to 4, we started to see some Portland money. We are as even as could be on both money and ticket count tonight, side and total. Seemingly nobody really has the same opinion as anyone else. So as far as tonight's game goes, I can't really give anyone any type of good information because there doesn't seem to be much.
Well, the old adage used to be that a bookmaker loves that scenario in which there's no result for the house. You win or you lose, or whoever covers, the house is still going to make their 4.5% cut, and that's that. Is that the way that the Caesars books run, or do you like having opinions on these games? Do you like having games? We're going to have a decision on this one, and hopefully we'll be on the right side of more than not.
I would say no two games are alike. And in a game like tonight where the number is pretty stable and the money keeps coming in and there's no real sharp opinion, then we're just going to keep, booking to a market number and see where the chips fall. And in these games, when there is no real sharp opinion, then not having a position is usually a good place to be. But, some other games you might have, if the sharps are on one side and the public's on the other, then, we're not afraid to take a stand. Those are usually good spots to have a bigger decision.
All right, let's put on the skates, and we'll start talking about last night. And I don't know that it would have made a difference because the way Bobrovsky played, I think the Bruins were going to lose the game anyway. But, they hurt themselves with a couple of bad penalties. Marchand's penalty was just terrible. It was a selfish penalty. It was described that way on the broadcast, and it turned out to be very decisive as Columbus got the power play goal. Bruins are a little trouble in this series.
Yeah, and I think I could spend the whole half an hour bit talking about this game. You mentioned Marchand and the dumb penalties. Columbus's special teams have been outstanding in the playoffs. They've really shut down the Tampa power play. They've shut down the Bruins power play. And then when they are on the power play, Duchesne and Panarin together out there have been absolutely fantastic. Brad Marchand reminds me of Claude Lemieux back in the old days in Avalanche. Incredible player, but just somewhere he just has a screw missing, and he just seems to go off the boil sometimes and takes terrible penalties. And he's a guy that you love him if he's on your team, and you hate him if he's not. But as a Bruins fan, you can't even be a fan of what he did last night. There's no place for the sucker punch. I know fighting's a part of hockey, but that's not fighting. That was, childish, really.
Yeah, it was stupid. On the flip side, this is really giving NHL fans across the country a chance, because Columbus doesn't get that much attention. And they're really getting a chance to look at a guy who's playing. I don't think there's anybody playing better in the entire playoffs, and that's Seth Jones, son of Popeye, the former NBA star. Seth Jones is a great defenseman, and he was fantastic last night.
You know, Dave, I'm glad somebody mentioned that because I was going to bring him up anyways. In my opinion, he's a top 2 or 3 two-way defenseman in the NHL. Yeah, maybe he's not as good offensively as a Brent Burns, and maybe he's not as locked down, as like a Chara on the other side, but he does everything well. He plays the lion's share of minutes. He doesn't make mistakes. He's physical. He's just a cornerstone back there, and you can rely on him so much. I mean, Columbus absolutely dominated this game from, I would say, the 10-minute mark of the first period until the Bruins got the goal at the end of the second period. There was absolutely no ice for Boston anywhere. Columbus was hitting everything in sight. And that goal just kind of turned the game on its head. It gave the Bruins life and something they didn't have for pretty much all the game. And Bobrovsky was unbelievable in the third period.
He was sensational. The other game last night also went to the wire. It ended up as a 4-2 San Jose victory at Colorado. They are back in front of that series 2-1. And again, one big play turns the game. Colorado had just tied the score at 2, and they just took a really bad turnover in their own end. Couture made the most of it, put it past the goalie and Grubauer. And this San Jose team, I don't know how good they are, Jeff, but boy, they are so opportunistic.
Yeah, they're really dangerous. And this game was similar to the Bruins game, not so much in the style of play, but the Sharks dominated the first half an hour, 40 minutes of this game.
Yeah.
Grubauer was incredible. Kane goes in on a breakaway in the second period. If he puts it away, it's 3-0. The game's over. Colorado had the heart to fight back. Jones played well. A couple of bad turnovers, one by Makar, one by Eric Johnson. But, man, this Couture, Meyer, Nyquist line was unbelievable last night. They were all over the ice. And to me, the problem in this series for Avalanche backers is San Jose is going to have the better players on the ice for like 65% of the game. The McKinnon line with Rantanen is great, and, they're on the ice for 18, 20, 21 minutes, but they just don't have the skating depth that San Jose has with Thornton and LeBanc and Evander Kane and Hurdle, and just the list goes on. And, that was a game that Colorado probably could have stole, and I think they might have needed to. That's not a good result for Colorado backers in the series.
No, I would agree with that. I'm one of them, and I think that bet might be in trouble. All right, tonight, we already looked a little bit at the Portland-Denver game. Let's look at tonight's NHL action. Islanders and Panthers go to Carolina for Game 3 with the Panthers the Hurricanes. What am I saying? Panthers, that's the football team. The Hurricanes leading 2-0. And what has suddenly become one of the great home ice venues in the league is going to be rocking tonight.
Oh, it is. This arena is fantastic. The fans are going to be packed in. It's going to be loud. And there's an absolute sea of money on the Islanders tonight. I looked at it a couple hours ago, and you couldn't have bought 2 show tickets at a Caesars property with the amount of money that was on the Hurricanes. But we've recently we took a bet minus a quarter, that gave us some money on Carolina. But, the Isles, game 1 was played very evenly. Either team could have won that game and made a case for it. The Isles were far better than Carolina was in game 2. Yeah. The combination of Mrazek and McElhaney stood on their head, and they stole it with 2 goals in a minute. And even Trotz said, Carolina played good for 48 seconds in the game. Well, these series are based on ebbs and flows, and the Canes won. They basically stole 2 games on the island, or actually in Brooklyn, but now they go home. I'm not sure the Isles can turn the tables here. They struggled to score goals all year, and they really did in the first 2 games. I think this series is done and dusted.
I kind of agree, because, and this is a spot where I would normally be looking to jump all over the Islanders early, especially because, you got that angle. Down 2-0, play the team that's behind in the first period of Game 3. It wins more than it loses, but boy, this home ice tonight, it's going to be basically, for those fans living here in Las Vegas, you know what it's like at T-Mobile when the Golden Knights are at home. That's what it's going to be like tonight in Carolina. This is going to be one of the strongest home ice venues you could ever imagine tonight.
I agree. You could make the case that it's the strongest one remaining in the playoffs.
I think so.
Now that Vegas is out, now that Winnipeg is out.